If you give us all your money, we'll give you your dreams. But that's not a guarantee. Hello to my lovely Familia. You're watching a new episode of ElliXia's Discography Dives, a series in which we dive into the discographies of some of my favourite artists. And yes, it took less than 7 months to film the next episode. Hold for applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. This series, the favourite artist in question is none other than Miss Sophie Ellis-Bextor. And this series was in the lead up to her new album Hannah, which came out on the 2nd of June 2023. However, that was a long time ago now. And we have retconned the series to say that it is now just a celebration. To celebrate Hannah, to celebrate just celebrate Sophie, innit? Yes, just celebrate her. In fact, I'm actually filming this today, 2 days after she's completed a very successful Christmas kitchen disco tour. So, well done, Sophie. Cheers to that. I haven't got a drink. Cheers to that. But yes, this is a series celebrating Sophie Ellis-Bextor's wonderful discography. If you haven't heard any of it, then I suggest you check it out. And if you're looking for some recommendations, well, you've come to the right place. Before we get into all of that, I am, of course, ElliXia Q Valentine, the titular ElliXia in ElliXia Discography Dives. Pleasure to see you if I haven't seen you before. I would be remiss if I didn't say, please give a follow and a like and a subscribe and all that stuff. All my socials are in the description below. Feel free to give us a follow or a subscribe if you would be so kind. If you feel so inclined, don't worry. I mean, it is, it is the festive season, but And this week we are talking about Sophie Ellis-Bextor's 6th studio album, Familia. Also available in a lovely vinyl as well. Today's look is inspired, sort of by the album's aesthetic. There's a lot of colour in the album's photo shoots, a lot of bright and bold colours. And she wears some flowers in some of the photographs and has some green eyeshadow in some of the photographs, so, it speaks for itself. Familia was released on the 2nd of September 2016 and it reached number 12 in the UK Albums Chart. It featured 4 singles: Come With Us, Crystallize, Wild Forever and Death of Love. This was the second album also to be released on Sophie's independent label EBGBs, and it was also her second album to be written and produced entirely with Ed Harcourt. This album also takes a lot of inspiration from folklore like the previous album did, and a lot of fairy tale inspired songs, with quite a large emphasis on storytelling and different characters and world building. Wanderlust was more inspired by sort of the Eastern European parts of the world, whereas this one was more inspired by sort of Latin America. She said that this was Wanderlust's younger, more bolshier sister that swapped out vodka for tequila. And I think that's a very fair statement, because I think this album, generally speaking, does a lot of what Wanderlust did, but on steroids. I remember when this album came out, I described it as Wanderlust on steroids, and I personally think it does a better job of it, if you ask me, which you do because you're watching my video. And this album even contains a couple of songs that are actually sequels to songs from Wanderlust as well, using the same characters and the sort of follow-up stories, if you will. Yes, that is what a sequel is, isn't it? Before we get into the bulk of the album as well, I will also just say that you may have noticed when I showed you the CD earlier, that yes, there is a signature on here signed to me, because yes, I did meet Sophie during the promotion of this album as well. Twice, in fact, actually. I even went to see this album on its launch, actually, at Shepherd's Bush in London on the 8th of September 2016. The first and currently only album launch I've ever actually been to as well. But there were tickets available for it, so I did it. And I went with my friend Cameron, a very good friend of mine from university. And of course, we did get to meet Sophie as well this time. It was lovely. She didn't remember me from last time, but I wouldn't expect her to. She must have met many, many people, so it's all right, don't worry, Sophie, no hard feelings. And the second time was part of the Familia tour as well. That happened in February 2017, 17th of February 2017 as well, with my friend Martin. That was also a very lovely show as well. I saw her at Birmingham for this one. And of course got to meet her as well. And I will say the photo of me, out of the 3 photos of me that I have with Sophie, this one is probably my favourite one. But they're all very good, and hey, welcome. Any opportunity with Sophie Ellis-Bextor is a good photo, am I right? I even actually still have the tickets for these events as well. I always like to keep tickets. I know a lot of the time we do them virtually these days, but I always like to keep my tickets, if I can. So I keep them in the Familia CD case, which also has a signature to my name on it. So yeah, I love this album. I've got quite an emotional connection to this album. And with the introduction of this album out of the way, let's dive into the track listing. Similarly to Wanderlust as well, this is quite a brief track listing. There's 11 tracks and that is it. I don't believe any other songs were recorded for this album. I think she said that with Wanderlust as well. I think if I remember correctly, she said she did 12 songs for Wanderlust and 11 made the album. And then with this one, it was just the 11, and that's it. So we have no B-sides, no bonus track, no tracks that aren't on Spotify or aren't on streaming or that are rare to find. We have the 11 tracks in front of us, and I very much thank Sophie and Ed Harcourt for the simplicity of this as well, so thank you. Makes my job a lot easier. Opening up the album, we have track 1, which is Wild Forever. And what an opener this is. Wild Forever starts off with some lovely synths and a thumping beat. I remember in the lead up to this album, Sophie did tease a few songs, and she said that this album kind of took the dancier sound from the previous stuff, and then the Wanderlust sound, and kind of brought them together. And Wild Forever is a good example of that, because it has kind of like a dancey-ish beginning, but it does still use a lot of live instrumentation throughout, just with the added synths. And Wild Forever is very, very feel-good. It's got some great lyrics about, sort of running free and surrendering to the wild and, letting yourself be free. And I love the lyrics, why be so ordinary, why just conform, let's rip the night in half and forget it all. I like to sing let's rip the night and say fuck it all, but lyrics like we shouldn't fight the way we feel when it comes to somewhere real, a garden always in full bloom, that's how I think of me and you. It kind of actually, in a way, somewhat harkens back to Youngblood on the previous album, lyrics about like always seeing somebody a certain way and, staying wild forever, staying young forever kind of thing. This is, I suppose, a bit more of a upbeat take on it, but it's very feel good, and I have to give a shout out as well. This was the album's 3rd single, and it received an F9 remix, which is absolutely banging as well. It lends itself really well to that more dancier style that Sophie was previously known for. The video is beautiful as well. She looks absolutely stunning in that music video. Got to give that a shout out. And this has become something of a live staple, I think, for Sophie. She's done it on quite a few shows. In fact, I actually saw the Christmas Kitchen Disco Tour a few days ago, at the time of filming this, in Birmingham at the Symphony Hall, and she even included it as part of the set. The only song from this album she included as part of the set, but it was still really cool to hear it. And I thought, thank you very much, Soph. I will use that in my video. Thank you very much. Thank you. She did it just for me, I'm sure. Wild Forever seamlessly goes into our track number 2 as well, which is called Death of Love. The lovely moment where that song ends and Death of Love begins, and it's like they just fit together perfectly. And Death of Love is a real interesting one for me. This was an instant highlight for me when the album first came out. Again, it blends in that live band sound with like the synthy elements to it. There's some lovely synths, after the, during the choruses. And it's an interesting song to me because you'd think a name like Death of Love, you'd think it'd be very sort of morbid and dark, but it's actually not at all. It's actually, well, I mean, the chorus does go, it's not the death of love, so it's like, well, there you go. It's rather uplifting. It's kind of like mid-tempo and it's kind of sort of celebrating like a timeless love. Every sunrise leads to a sunset and fruit must fall from branches, but basically we stay timeless. I get the impression it's sort of, again, actually somewhat similar to Youngblood. An element of, time will come and go and things will change, but we will stay the same and our love will transcend time and whatever happens. And once again, this was the album's 4th single. It has a gorgeous music video. A lot of the music videos for this album very much feature different locales, and they're not particularly plot heavy, but they feature some very lovely cinematography. And of course, as always, Sophie looks gorgeous in every single one of them. I mean, like, as the kids are saying, the face card never declines when Sophie Ellis-Bextor does it. Like, let's be real. Yeah, Death of Love was an instant standout for me when I first heard this album. It's very, very charming and just, it's very comforting. Kind of a shame we didn't get the remix treatment really, because I think it probably would have lent itself quite well to like maybe a bit more of an up-tempo Cynthia version, but I still really love it for what it is. It did get a mariachi version. There was a version done with a mariachi band that was released onto her YouTube. Yeah, Death of Love, lovely song. We move on to track 3, which is Crystallize. This is the album's first ballad. This song is quite moody, dare I say, quite brooding. Would be right at home on Wanderlust as well. What I like about this album is you could sort of easily think that maybe the songs from Wanderlust and Familia could be interchangeable, or that any of the hardcore trilogy songs could be interchangeable. And that's not the case. But this is one of those songs where I think you could put it on Wanderlust and it would fit right in. It's very sort of simplistic in its arrangement, very sort of straightforward with the melody, but some beautiful melodies and some very beautiful vocals, I think, from Sophie as well on this one. I love the lyric of, you don't have to try hard, you don't need to wise up, it all becomes clear as day. To me, I get the impression of it's speaking to somebody who maybe overcomplicates things and, dare I say, tries it too hard, and this is a way to say, look, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to be doing all that stuff. Kind of, in a way, it feels like a bit of a sister song to, not Youngblood, but to Today the Sun's on Us from Trip Like Fantastic. I feel like there's a similar essence in terms of sort of like trust in fate a bit more and stop worrying about what you can't control. Crystallize was the album's second single, and once again it features a very, very atmospheric video with some beautiful locales. Moving on to track number 4, we have Hush Little Voices. I remember a few months before this album came out, Sophie gave us like a little preview, a little teaser video, and there was a clip of her singing, recording this song. The chorus, Hush Little Voices, don't you cry, Mama's gonna sing you a lullaby. Oh, this sounds very, very fairy tale-esque. And I remember listening to this song for the first time, and I thought, oh, this is nice. And when you sort of listen to a song, and you don't, like the first time you listen to a song, or maybe the first time you listen to an album all the way through, you don't quite take in the words or every single word, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to listen to a song a couple of times for you to sort of actually think, oh, that's what that means, or oh, that's what she's singing about. And I can remember with Hush Little Voices, really, initially, it was just the chorus that kind of stood out to me, lyrically. Lyrics like Hush Little Voices in my mind, won't you just sleep for a little while? Hush Little Voice in my mind, why are you never satisfied? Well, that's the lyrics in the pre-chorus, there's a storm in me, it never goes away however hard I try. And, I'll be candid, I'm somebody who does suffer with anxiety and, mental health and all that, the usual. And so when I first heard the song, I thought, oh, I really relate to those lyrics because, sometimes, trying to quiet down those voices is really, really hard. And it does make you feel a bit like overwhelmed sometimes, and you do sometimes think, oh, can you not just be quiet for just, it's like have a bit of respite. And so I thought, oh, this is a song about anxiety and, and how much of a sort of a grip it can really have on you. And I thought to myself, oh, this is one of Sophie's like most relatable songs yet. And then I listened to the lyrics properly, and also she did it live when I saw her. And she explained that it was a sequel song to Love is a Camera. Now, refresh your memory from the last video, Love is a Camera is a song about a witch who takes people's pictures and she steals their souls. So the little voices that she's trying to hush are actually the souls of the people, who she's, the voices from the souls that she stole from everybody, and they're now driving her mad with guilt. Initially I was like, oh yeah, this is a really relatable song. And then she said that, and I was like, okay, it's not so relatable anymore. I don't know about you, but I don't steal people's souls, so. But it's one of those songs where, you can take what you get from it. And I think it is a lovely little song nonetheless. On to track 5, we have Here Comes the Rapture. Now, I have to tell you, Here Comes the Rapture is absolutely 100% one of my favourite songs on this album. Very possibly my favourite song, actually. I think it's a really, really, really stunning song. It's a ballad, it's very orchestral, there's no percussion in it at all. It is just strings and Sophie's voice, and it's just so divine. Lyrically, it sings about effectively giving yourself up to somebody, or to someone that you love, or a higher power that you love, and how good it feels to let go. It's, it is like a rapture, it's like an ascension. Some of the lyrics are really lovely as well. Seeing you for the first time is like a parting of the clouds, like a calling in the night, like a sinner made devout. You inspire me to live like a precious work of art that was only yours to give. Somewhat dramatic, but it's very romantic, and it's delivered with such an earnesty. The instrumentation, the vocals, the lyrics, everything is just a beautiful, beautiful package. Remember, not long after this album came out, listening to it on the train, and it was sunset, and I was like looking at this gorgeous sunset view out the window, and this song was on, and I was just like, oh, this just feels so apt. Even actually the other day, I was cooking, and I had this album on shuffle to, remind myself of it. And that song came on, and I actually started to cry because I was like, oh, this is just really, really beautiful. Definitely a song I would like to perform, and it's added to the massive pile of Sophie Ellis-Bextor songs I'd love to perform one day, because I think it's a really stunning one. When I saw her at the Familia tour in 2017, she This was the encore of the encore. She stood at the back of the room. It was a very rowdy crowd when I saw her on that night. so there were quite a lot of voices. But she stood at the back of the room and gestured, everyone to be quiet. And eventually everybody caught onto it. And she sang Here Comes the Rapture from start to finish with no microphone at all. And it was really, really beautiful. It was a proper moment. And that's the thing that Sophie likes to do in a lot of her shows now, I've noticed. She did that actually when I saw her the other day at Symphony Hall. She did Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas with no mic at all. It's quite impressive to be able to do a song in a big venue like that, full of people who, let's face it, probably are a little bit drunk as well, and to be able to command that attention and sing a song perfectly with no microphone. Like, come on now. Yeah, Here Comes Rapture, absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely song. And then we have track number 6, which is Come With Us, which was this album's lead single. I really like Come With Us. It had me very intrigued for what this album was going to entail when I first heard it. It was released on the 19th of July, 2016, which coincidentally is the date of my very first drag performance as well. Sound of the underground. Those two facts aren't related because I was already booked for this. It wasn't that I heard Come With Us and was like, oh, I have to do a drag performance now. And as mentioned earlier, Sophie said that she wanted to sort of blend her current sound and her previous sound together with this song, and Come With Us I think was a good way to sort of launch the album in, because it's dancey and it's obviously disco inspired, but it isn't so far to that side that it's like she's abandoned what she was doing previously with Wanderlust. It's very much it is very much a meeting in the middle. Come With Us sings about what I imagine is a cult. It's an interesting song because the verses are quite friendly. Well, I think the whole song is quite friendly, but the verses are friendly. You don't need to be lonely. The verses appeal to somebody who is maybe a little bit lost and feeling a bit on their own, a bit isolated. And it's very much encouraging you to be like, come with us, you can be part of our group. You can be part of, you can find where you belong. It all sounds very lovely until you get to the chorus. The lyrics take quite a bit of a sinister turn with, if you give us all your money, we'll give you your dreams. And it's like, I'm not quite sure this is the inclusive safe haven that I initially thought this was going to be. And one of the lyrics in the second verse is sign away your life to us. So it is this might be the promise of you'll find your family, you'll find a lovely, loving community, but pay for it, basically. It's if you sign away everything, if you give us all your money, we'll give you your dreams. And it's yeah, but it's going to cost more than money, isn't it? There's that right level of intrigue about the song. But it also helps that it's a bop as well, because it does sound, it's very up-tempo and it's very enjoyable to listen to. And I will also say there's another F9 remix of this song, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Come With Us is basically like a cult party anthem. On to track number 7, we have Cassandra. Cassandra is a song about a girl called Cassandra, who is some kind of prophet, some kind of, what's the word for somebody who's psychic? Oracle? Is she like an oracle? She knows a lot, basically. The character of Cassandra has been ostracized because of it. She's been, isolated from the community because they're afraid of what she's saying or because they don't believe what she's saying. And Sophie's character in the song is basically trying to appeal to her to be like, no, I believe you. Cassandra is this girl who's been cursed with the burden of knowing too much, basically, and the others are trying to silence her. Cassandra knows all the tea, and people don't like that, but she only tells the truth. The lyric that I really like about you've got snakes in your red hair, and I'm like, well, there's no snakes in the ear. Does this count as red? I mean, some people would say this is red. I would say it's more of a brown auburn, but some people would say this red. There are no snakes in his hair, I promise. I am not Cassandra, although I did actually consider the name Cassandra as a drag name, but that was more after the Soul Calibur character, not after this song. In terms of arrangements, I think Cassandra is another one that's quite similar to Wanderlust. It could easily fit in there. And this is very much obviously one of those songs that's a lot more obvious in its sort of fairy tale folklore inspired lyrics. Yeah, justice for Cassandra, innit? Poor Cassandra. I hope they set her free one day. We then move on to track number 8, which is My Puppet Heart. Now this is my favourite song on the album, I would say. Right, at the very least tied with Rapture, but this is was an instant stand-up for me and definitely one of my favourite. My Puppet Heart sings about, effectively being a puppet. About somebody basically taking entire control of them, but how Sophie's character is very happy with that. She's very much like, well, I'm fine for you to basically control me because I trust you and I trust in the process. I really like My Puppet Heart because it's very quirky and it's kind of kooky, I suppose. There are some melodic elements in the instrumental that are really kind of just a bit weird, and I really like that about it. I remember when I saw her at the album launch, she said that it was inspired by her time on Strictly as well, because of when you're partnered with a dance professional who very much knows what they're doing and you don't, and it's their job to teach you and it's their job to lead the way, you are kind of entrusting yourself into them and basically giving yourself to them for them to show you what to do, because you are putting yourself in their hands, like literally and like figuratively and literally. I also remember when I saw her at Shepherd's Bush, she almost missed the first cue to sing the first lyric as well, which was quite funny. But something about this one, and I don't know what it is, but something about it reminds me of Impossible Princess by Kylie a little bit as well. Like, I feel like it could be on the album somewhat, maybe, I don't know. It's definitely a song I would love to perform. We can add this one to the pile of, you know, songs with Sophie Ellis-Bextor that ElliXia wants to perform one day. This is another one to add to the pile. That pile's getting bigger and bigger by the day. On to track number 9, we have Unrequited. This is a very stripped back, very melancholy ballad. It's quite simple in its arrangement, but I think that is actually a welcome change, because a lot of Familia as a whole does have some kind of like chaotic sounding arrangements, and I think Unrequited is a nice little breather from that. Lyrically, it sings about an unrequited love, funnily enough. The idea of a love that has reached its end before Sophie, or the character in the song, was ready for it to do so. It definitely has a real sad and mournful vibe to it. There's a lot of strings as well, which add to the somewhat melodramatic element that it has. Even though it is quite stripped back, there's just that little touch, little sprinkling, little helping of melodrama on it as well. And there's actually a neat little throwback. I don't know if this was intentional, but there's a neat little throwback to Shoot From The Hip actually on this song, to the song The Walls Keep Saying Your Name, which featured a male vocalist. This song also features a brief little verse from a male vocalist from the perspective of his side, where he's singing, you know, you keep telling yourself there's a future now, but it's over now. And I think that's a nice touch. This is sung by Matthew Cause. When I saw it live, it was also done by Ed Harcourt as well. It's not a huge part, but it adds a nice layer, I think, to the song to have the male perspective. If you may recall, in some of my previous videos, I spoke about how like I was like sort of chronically lonely being single when I was like in my late teens, because I thought that was everything. Back when I was a blossoming Sophie Ellis-Bextor fan. And let's just say it's a good thing that we didn't have Unrequited back then, because I would have rinsed the hell out of that song. We move on to track number 10, which is The Saddest Happiness. A song that effectively sings about, well, depression really. Lyrics of show me around the world a few more times, but I don't think I'll see the wonders. Once you've been so low, it's hard to feel the highs. Relatable. Yeah, lyrics are being so sort of down and sad that you've kind of become accustomed to it, and you actually kind of find a comfort in sort of wallowing in it. The chorus goes, the saddest happiness, I found a friend in you, the needle to the groove. It has a very melancholic and again somewhat melodramatic element to it. Interestingly, this song, to me, the intro to this song sounds like it belongs in a Crash Bandicoot game. I don't know what it is about it, but it just does to me. And I'm very good at sort of finding Crash Bandicoot links in things that it has no business being in. The Saddest Happiness is a song that I didn't quite gel with in the beginning. Maybe the lyrics felt a bit too real. I don't know. But... And then closing up the album, we have Don't Shy Away, which in turn is a sequel song to Cry from the Beat of the Band from Wanderlust. Lyrically, it's from the perspective of the bride from Cry to the Beat of the Band, who left her husband, or left the groom, sorry, at the altar. And in Cry to the Beat of the Band, she's running away from the church. This is when she's run that little bit further. She's run that a little bit further, and she's now on her way to another man, a new lover, and she's going to start a new life with him. I don't know why, I can just picture like, there's something about it gives me kind of, I can imagine an old sort of country and western type film where like, I can see a music video that's shot in that kind of grainy quality, where she's like running through like this, I don't know, like this canyon or something, and like the man that she's running towards is waiting there with like a horse, and they're gonna ride off into the sunset together. And she's in this like wedding dress that's like really like in tatters by this point, and like looks a mess because she's been like running for so long. It's a good way to close the album actually, because it's not like, you know, it's not a ballad and it's not quite It's slightly higher in tempo, but it's not like a upbeat, dancey song. Again, somewhat melancholic, because I get the sense, right, it's a song about sort of starting a new life. And, you know, there's a common theme, I think, actually, in sort of like giving yourself up to like something new. We have it in Wild Forever with like sort of finding freedom. We have it in Here Comes the Rapture. We have it in My Puppet Heart about like sort of losing control. And then I think in this song, again, it's kind of like she's putting all her trust in this man that she's left a fiance for. And there's an interesting vibe to it, because I feel like you should think, you know, that sort of running away to a new beginning should be happy, but there's a real melancholic element to this song which makes me think that it's not going to have a happy ending. If there was the end sign, it would have a question mark at the end of it, you know what I mean? But yeah, Don't Shy Away wraps up this album, which I think all in all is a very good record. Familia is overall an interesting piece of work, because I think, you know, there's always going to be people who I think long for, you know, pure pop Sophie, as it were. But of course she did win a whole new audience with Wanderlust, and I can understand wanting to combine the two together. I still think Familia very much errs a lot more to the Wanderlust side of things than to the pure pop side of things. But to me, this album sort of does what Wanderlust sets out to do, but does it even better. I suppose like Wanderlust, you know, it was her first time doing an album like this at all. Of course, you know, the next time you do it, the better it gets. The more you practice something, the better it gets, doesn't it? So there's a lot more confidence, I think, behind Familia. You know, it worked well the first time, now let's do it even better. Although my favourite of the hardcore trilogy is still to come, but I definitely think that Familia is the stronger of the first two. And on that note, that wraps up Familia. Thank you very much for watching another episode of ElliXia's Discography Dives. I have, of course, been ElliXia Q Valentine. And don't forget to join us next time when we will be discussing the reason for the season, and that is 2023's Hannah. And I'm looking forward to talking about this album, because it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And yes, you might notice there is another signature, not because I met her this time, but just because there was a version that you could buy that she would do a personalised signature for. So, and yes, thank you very much for watching another episode of ElliXia's Discography Dives. It's been lovely to see you as always. Don't forget to stay safe and take good care of yourself. And in the meantime, please book me. Thank you very much. Mwah.